Hi everyone, and welcome to the second webinar for React. Let me know if everything is sounding clear and loud, and we will begin once I receive your feedback. Perfect. Thanks, Axel. Okay, so this is the second knowledge webinar for the React Audacity. We are focusing in lifting a state, and I'm going to try to make an example for also the part of the documentation that talks about thinking in React, where they show you how to think about your components, about your user interface, and with a real example. So first, I will go with the example of the documentation about lifting a state. I like to always begin with the official docs example. So once you go to that documentation, it's easy. We went through it. So that's the example where when you go to the React docs, you will see that what they built is a simple temperature calculator. What they want to do is, okay, this is what's they want us to build, or they show us how to build it. They want to have a user input where you write the temperature and in Celsius, and the program will tell you if at that temperature the water would boil or not. So they show you how a normal class for this is done. So you see that, okay, it's an calculator component where it has just the enter temperature level, the input, and a component for the result. Okay, so as you see, the temperature is the state of the calculator component and is passed through to both the inputs that it's in this view and also to the child view. Okay, so this is the view that will calculate if the temperature is above 100 or below. So this is just a normal example. We should know everything about this. For example, in the next images, I might remove the constructor because you will see that these kind of things that handle states binding the methods, the class methods here with this are not needed if we put this in ECMAScript 6. If you want to know more about this, we can talk in the Slack chat about it. But okay, let's see the boiling verdict component. So it's just a functional component, just a function that receives the props. As we saw, it just receives the temperature in Celsius, and it just calculates. Okay, if props Celsius is bigger than 100, I show that level that the water would boil, and in the other ways, the water wouldn't boil. I think this is just the starter code, simple. Every time you need something or you have any question, please ask me. I might try for next week the Google Hangouts, because I think you will have a more direct chat. Even maybe if you want to use the microphone, you can go there. But okay, so in the example on the documentation for this, how to move a state they tell you as, okay, you have this example. Now I want, in addition that, for adding, for writing the inputs in Celsius, I want another input where we provide the information in Fahrenheit. So, and the two inputs to be synced. So the approach they do is just, okay, this, no, I want two different inputs. So this is where React appears and makes, okay, don't repeat yourself, the GRIY. So yeah, I had an input, so now we create a temperature input because I want to reuse these components. So that's what they do here. It's just a normal class for that component. The state, we have the constructor. The state now lives inside the temperature, and now we can't, depending on what prop we pass it here. As you see, we have the props scale. So if we pass a C, this input will work on Celsius, show Celsius and just handle Celsius. And if we passed an F, it will be a Fahrenheit input. So this is just, okay, the first step. What happens, let me check, I think, yeah, what happens with this approach? Now, yeah, we have the states living inside the components. So we have one component for the Celsius, one instance of the component for the Celsius temperature, and one component for the Fahrenheit temperature. And the state lives inside every component, so they don't share the state, so they are independent, so they won't be synced. So that's where in this screenshot, when I wrote 125 in Celsius, this input was, okay, my inner state is not changed because we don't share a state. So here is, okay, the first part where you have to think, yeah, I have to lift the state, no? This is the most basic example where, okay, I need to find, the closest common parent for putting the shared state. So now what we do is to change the temperature input to not have the inner state. The temperature doesn't have to be a state, it has to be a prop passed from the parent. So now the changes are, okay, the fields are the same, but as you can see now we have the temperature is as the scale a prop for this component. So, and now the handle change as on the previous, let me show you, on the previous, every time you move the state, as you can see, you come from, okay, I have inner state, I have a handle change for this state in the input, and usually the handle state are, okay, this dot set state, because I only want to update the inner state. But when we come to, okay, I want to move the state to the parent, we just change the handle change to, okay, now I call a parent function that we passed from the parent, and in this case is the, okay, the on temperature change. I know this is the basics. You've been through more complex code, but first having things clear, the first example, so we are all moving on the same page. Now what we need to do is to show how calculator works. Okay, so now as you see, now a state has the temperature. We have the temperature inside the parent, inside the calculator. Scale is just, okay, I want to show the default input for this component. So in this case will be in Celsius. Now we have the handles for the inside temperature, because we want to pass for every side its handler. So if we are building temperature inputs where we will be handling Celsius temperatures, we have to pass the 100 Celsius change temperature changer handler. So sorry, the Celsius changes handler and the Fahrenheit change handler, and this just sets the new temperature pass from the child and just tells, okay, now we are working. The user has put the temperature in Celsius, so I have to calculate the Fahrenheit or the other way. So in this part, just they do conversions. So just okay, they take the states, the scale and temperature from the state, and just calculate the different temperature in the different formats. Let's see how. Let me check. I don't know why. Let me check one thing. Okay. So as you see now, the temperature input it differs from the before, because we just now have to pass all the three props from the parents. Okay, the scale where it will be working from, the temperature states, and the handler for that temperature. So as you see, we have this and this, and of course we now add the boiling verdicts function that hasn't changed from the beginning. So what we achieved is, if we come here and if I write 12 in the Celsius inputs, automatically it's synced because this component just updates the parent temperature, the parent state where they have the temperature, recalculates and says, okay, we are putting the user is using the scale Celsius, so I just calculate Fahrenheit and Celsius and update the children with their different calculated temperatures. As you can see, we can use like a derived state. We are not passing like directly the state to the child. We just, okay, this is the temperature, this is the state, but we are passing a derived property from that state. But as we are lifting the state with a on-change handler, the children, okay, are showing a calculated property from the state, but they are updating the parent state. So as we go into the render method of the parent, they keep being updated on sync. This is I think a nice example of, okay, you don't need to pass exactly the state. And of course, now we have the boiling verdict. That function didn't change at all. It just at the beginning it received the temperature. As you see now, it's on Celsius, and this is the example. Just because I wanted you to have all the code later when I give you these slides. So just I just added where I would put the every part of the code. So and as you saw, this is the conversion files for the example. They have them in CodePen, but usually the examples don't have the imports or the name of the files where they would be. So if you want to copy this in local, you just go through the pages of the slide and you can run it. So this was like the starting example for because the lifetime is telling me that it's half an hour from live, but I think we've been here for, let me check the time, because I think we've been 15 minutes or so. Yeah, so we're moving to the real part of this webinar. So if you have a doubt related with this or any doubt in general, please ask me before we pass to the next part. I hope this time the audio is louder, because the previous webinar I think was a little low. Okay, so I moved to the yeah, the previous example from the React docs. It's nice, but for me it's not like a real case scenario, real world example. You might want to use something like that, but I like to do always that I arrive to a new framework. I like to do this kind of exercise because it was something I had to build when I was working with Meteor framework, and there wasn't at the time a library for pagination and filtering. Of course, for things like this, don't reinvent the wheel, just go and use a library. But for testing things and trying to to see how the components work with each other, I like to do kind of examples of this real work I had to do with Meteor. So what's I've built, it's very simple. Here I give you the link for the GitHub repository where I uploaded the codes. The code is like with a quick, so if later on the week or during the course you want to fork or collaborate in the code and try to implement better things, feel free. I will more than happy to collaborate with you. So what's I just left here what the tools I use for this part of the code. Just I wanted to use Bootstrap, even that I didn't go into the design, and it's like, okay, I added some diffs there like crazy. I wanted to use the library React.js. I haven't used it before, so I wanted to give it a try. And JSON generator is like a very nice. Let me check if I can show you in a minute what it is, because I think it's an incredible library where you just then as you see, well, I think it's very very small here. You just put like, okay, what you want to achieve when you want to mock data. You just go here and you tell, okay, the users, we're going to build some users docs, so it's going to have an ID and its active property, rows, pictures, age, and you tell it, okay, once role is going to be a random a string, like in between these kind of values, a user, admin, super admin, guest, the gender would be male, female, neutral, rather not say, and these kind of things. And it has built-in functions, and it generates for you just this kind of nicely random JSON. So I thought it was a very nice tool for showing you. So you have it there. So just we move to the interesting part, where first, this is what the Thinking React docs tells you how to approach a new project. So we will go through these steps little by little, and you will see how I implement them, because step 3 and step 4 and 5 can be mixed. So the first step is always, and this will help you even in your actual project, in the MyBridge project. Break the user interface into a component hierarchy. They give you the general UI, but in a paper, just draw it. But so step 2, build a static version in React. Step 3, we just find the user interface state. Step 4, we allocate where that state should live. Step 5, we add the inverse data flow. So yeah, this is very nice, but I want to go deep, step by step. So first part, break the user interface into a component hierarchy. So we have to follow the SRP principle, the single responsibility principle, try to make every component to do only one thing. We might be beginning to build a component that makes one thing, and after a time, it creates lots of things. It does a lot of things. So after a time, maybe you have to split that code. And the second part, draw the components hierarchy. So what component is a child of another component? What component is what components are siblings between them? So let's see what I want to build. Yeah, this is like what you can do even for the MyReach project in a paper. Okay, I want to make a list of users, as you see. So where I show some properties of the users, I want to use a filter where I can filter by gender, role, some age-related properties, and of course the pagination. For this example, I just added like a simple paginator. I don't want to add the arrows for going to the beginning or moving. Okay, now we move from the 1 to 5 results and to the 6 to 10, because it would be very complex for 40 minutes we have for this part. So that would be like, okay, 1 to 5. And I want, okay, when I click the third page, this list of users to be changed and to be fetched again. And if I filter and click on mail, just okay, also update the filter, also update the paginator, because the paginator might show us, in this case we have 3 items per page and 5 pages, so we should be having like between 12 and 15 results. If we filter, we might have only 8 items. So this is what I want to achieve. So I first draw it. Secondly, I add names to the components. So I highly recommend you to do this because it helps you a lot. So yeah, we have the user list component, the user filter component, and the paginator component. Why I named paginator component instead user paginator? Oh, because I just want to be able to reuse that paginator for every other list I want to use in my projects, because I want to, like this is depending on what you want to show on the users. This is very dynamic. You can build simple filters components, and after that composing for every view. But to make it simple, I just wanted to show you how I think sometimes. So this is preparing it to, after that, maybe moving to a outside component. So, but now we have this. Okay, next step of the first step is to show the components hierarchy. So these 3 components are together. They are part of a user component, or users component. You can put them part of the app component. I just wanted to think outside of the box and think, okay, I want to show, I am building a complex application, and I want to grab and import the users. So users will have 3 parts, and they are siblings between them. Okay. So I think this part doesn't have much in it. So let's go through the second part. Now they tell us to build a static version in React, and this is what you should do in your MyReach project, where they give you all the HTML, CSS together, and once you have how you want to divide the components, just to begin to create those components with just static data. So you don't have to use a state. Things don't have to be clickable. Things don't have to be working. It's just like a mock-up in HTML. So here you have a reference for the commits in the. So for building this, what do I need? So I just wanted to do like a little schema. So we have the users. And for the user list, what I need, so that's like, okay, the kind of properties I will be needing, or the information I will be needing. So for the user list, I just need the users. So I just grab the users from the mocked data, because I'm not using an API here. I just mock the API with with a constant with lots of users. Just grab the users and show a list of a table, in this case, of user list. For the paginator, okay, I just want to show, like, a bootstrap paginator from 1 to 5. So I just need, okay, the items per page, because I want to make it configurable. So for maybe in a page I want to show 10 results per page. In another page I want to show 4 results per page. So if I know that configuration, the items per page, and the total items count, I just can calculate, okay, we want to show 5 users per page, and we have 20 users. So I just calculate and say, okay, 20 users, 5 users per page, 4 pages, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I just loop and map and show the paginator for 4 pages. So that's approach. User filter. I didn't need for the static version any property, any variable, because they were just checkboxes and inputs. And as I don't need to put a state, I don't need to put on change or the values. But of course, that's why I put the to do. But I know that I will be needing some filters variables to save later the information. But that's what we are not doing. So what I built, here you can see what's it's ugly. I wanted to make it pretty with Bootstrap, but I didn't have the time. Maybe some of you wanted to collaborate and make this example look better. So it was okay. So this is what I built. The paginator, as you see, we have the paginator above. It doesn't have any active state. It doesn't tell us you are in page 1, in page 3, in page 4. It just shows the paginator. User list, 5 data there, and the filters. This is just what's the minimal part of the user interface. So I'm going to show you the code here. So just for let me check. Okay, so what I did here is, okay, app just renders the users. As I told you, you can just put everything inside app, but from my approach, I just have to go to render users. So what does users do? Yeah, I installed, of course, the React libraries, the Bootstrap. I just created, okay, I just add a component, paginator. Let me go first for the user. We have the paginator, another row with the user list and the user filters components, and both the 3 of them are imported. So let's check the user list. For example, user list is a normal component without any properties, and as you see, user list just retrieves all the users. If we come to the mock data, you see that users is just a normal JSON object with all the information copied from the tool I showed you before. And user list just grabs these users. It just slices them, because we have like, okay, the whole database, these 30 users. I think I created the original JSON, but for this view I just want to show 5. So I just grab them, slice it into from the first 5 elements, and create the header, HTML. I map through the users and show the information. You see, we don't need states. It's locally, so easy. So what we have in the users filter, because it's another component that doesn't need any prop. User filter, normal, not states, not internal props, just from group. This is from React.js, and just labels with inputs, without values, without anything, because this just works. And of course, if you click them, it won't do anything. But that's what you saw in the screenshot in the presentation. That's what's at this step of the project what you would achieve. So we have this part, and for the paginator, as you can see, I have a problem here because I want to make it configurable, so I just pass from the parent the total items, the items per page. So this should be 30 items per page, because it's not the state. This should be like in a variable internal items per page, like 5. This should be the what we should have here. That's, I think, was a little error. It didn't shout at me the transpiler. So and for the paginator, we add, we think, now I always recommend you to use these prop types. It's for the project, put the prop types, because first part where you go to the class paginator, it receives for 2 properties. I see them. I don't have to come here. What's this? He's destructuring, or she's destructuring, or here it's accessing the props. You just see. Receives total items, receives items per page. As you see, here we calculate the number of pages for what we are going to show. This is just like, I create an array to loop it and make it nicely. You can go through the code later. So just wanted to show you what we've built. So even that's we didn't make anything very. We haven't done a lot of things in React, because if you approach the project like, the states, I want to add the handlers, you begin to mix things, and you might make it right at first, but if you follow this approach with Git and everything, you have the steps really well built, and you can go back and see, and you have lots of isolated components. So this is for the second step. Now the third and fourth steps, I make them together. So because in the code I make first analyze the step 3 in paper or in my mockup tool, and we go through the step 4, and once we've done the step 3 and step 4, I go to the code, make changes. So what we have to do in the step 3, we've built a static version of the project. In a real project, that should be like the final design. That would be like beautiful. So now I want to make it interactive. I want to click in the filters. I want to click on the paginators. I want to move and so we have to add the state following the don't repeat yourself principle. So if I can have one variable for this, or I can derive this from there, I just keep it on that. And they recommend us to make us 3 questions, about every kind of state property we have to add here. So is it passed from a parent via props? Does it remain unchanged over the time? Can you compute it based on other state props in components? Usually, if you answer, for example, does it remain unchanged over time? Yes. If you answer yes for one of these questions, usually it won't be a state. It would be like a prop passed from a parent. Maybe it's stating in the parent, but right now it's not. As we are thinking locally, this is are the questions they told us. So remember, ask anything, interact me. Wherever you see that I'm going very fast, or I don't know, or if my head is like in the middle of any picture or something like that. And as you see, this presentation is different from the other day. You will tell me later what you prefer, going through slides, showing some code, or writing code as the other week. So, okay, so I come through for my mockup. In this step, I want, okay, what will happen if I go to the paginator and I click a button? So in this case, the third page. Okay, so I want to, user list to be changed. Sorry, I don't want to. I was just thinking on relationships between the components. For just think of in the paginator only. For okay, I want to put that button in red. I click for, so I just, okay, I want to have a reference about what page I am clicking, so I just name this variable actual page, and it's an inner property for the paginator right now, because I just want to click the elements, and so I make the questions. Is pass foreign parent? Is this property pass foreign parent? Pass, I think that's miswritten. I will change it later for the presentation. Let me pass. I think for all the screenshots will be like this. I see it pass foreign parent? No, because we are thinking on right now just for the normal component from the paginator. So no, it's unchanged over time. No, because we are clicking. The user is going to change it. Okay, now I want to see page 4. I want to see page 1. So it's not. It's computer or from another state property. No, it's a unique. It's a unique property. You know, I can't derive to where page I am without having a property that tells me that. No, so that would be okay. I have the actual state. Actual page state for this paginator. So we found one state for this component. Let's see what happens when I go to the filter. So this might be very hard work because you see the presentation with all the clicks, but just doing it in a paper and thinking, or in the whiteboard, it's just like 15 minutes. You can create a general idea of doing it. And I really recommend it for you to do it for the project. I also recommend to use any of the mockups tools that they tell you. There is a list of 20 mockups tools. I can share you what tools I like to use, or the free ones. But you can. This is made with Google Draw, so you don't need to be an expert, but it really pays off later. So okay, I click on the gender, I click on the female. I want to filter on female. I want to not filter. I want to the user interface to react, to respond to my user input. So I just want to have a filter object for every filters, gender, role, age, and for gender I want to have the properties. Male is checked or is unchecked. Female is unchecked or is checked. Neutral is unchecked or is checked. The age, minimum age, maximum age, its minimum value. Okay, so I just need the inputs, the inputs named. I have them. So I just said okay, I can have a filter object with the name of every filter and the property of every filter, and put it true or false in the case of the checkboxes, and in the case of the inputs, just okay, the content. So that's what I would need to make it reactive. Of course, so the same questions: is pass foreign parent? In this case, no. I just want to have internal state for clicking things. It's unchanged over the time? No, because user is going to be clicking. I want to test everything. I want to test if my code was okay. The user wants to use it. It's computed from other properties. No, I guess I can't know if you give me the state of the paginator, if you give me the user list, if you give me the state of the users, or whatever we end having at the end. I can know, I can derive this from another place. So it's it's the state for the filter. So right now we have two components analyzed: the paginator and the user filter. Besides the props we put into the components in the static version, we know that for this step 3, like making the inputs reactive, just dynamic, we just need what's the actual page for the paginator, and for the filter, the filters object. Okay, so we just need the user list. This user list, it's a little tricky because yeah, I want to show the users, and this is okay. I really want. I know that users is going to be changing over the time, because I can show. Okay, because it doesn't have a state. You could say it here. I don't need a state here. You could say it's going to be a prop. It wouldn't be a problem, but if you go to the step 4, you see that you don't find new states. You know that you just move the states over the application. So here you have to think, okay, what's the general purpose of this application? The general purpose of this application is that if I paginate, if I check the boxes, if I do things, the user list has to be updated, has to be fetching different users to the API. So I have to take one user, 2 users, 3 users, 4 users, and because I wanted to think, okay, maybe we add the delete button, the edit button, and this would be okay. I want to be it has to be a state for the code, and maybe analyzing this, we could go and make a parallel project where users don't need to be states, but I think that would be having problems at the end. So because it's we have to be fetching. So if we have user list and we now we have to it has to be update always, because state always, because now give me the first to 8th users in the list, and I grab them. If they were props, we wouldn't be re-rendering the views. So at the end you would be having to put them in a state. So for me, it's a state at the beginning, because it's reactive, it's changing from the other components. So as you see, user list, we fetch it from the component. Is passed from the parent? No, it's internal for the user list. Is unchanged over time? No, that would be like the little difference between putting in a property or putting in the state. Okay, and it's not computed. It's the internal. It's the basic information for this view, for this exercise. If we don't have users, we don't have anything. Okay, so we go to the step 4. Okay, so now what's the tell us to do is let me put the chat here. Think about which components mutates or has the states, and found a common owner component. Okay, here I do like different things. I just begin to think about clicking items and going through items. So this is my approach, the way I just find it easier. I don't like the example from the documentation. I think it's a nice example, but it's very simple. No, it's not like, okay, what happens here, what happens there. So let's see. What I begin to do is thinking about the events. Okay, I don't add them, but I just think, okay, we have the starting point. I have the user list that are users now, as before. Now we know that it's a state. Paginator now has actual page added to its props as a state. A user filter has filters as before as a state, now without the to do, because we now know that by now it's a state in the object. Okay, what happens when I click the paginator? as you saw. So yeah, on the page change, no, just click on the paginator. Okay, what should happen? Ask it to yourselves, what should happen? Okay, we update the paginator, we just moved, okay, so from page 1 to page 3, but we have to update the user list. It has to, okay, so we first see here that paginator needs to update like user list state. So here's where we begin to say, okay, a sibling has to update another sibling's state, even that paginator by now doesn't need the state from the user list. I think this is the most complex part, but it's like you will see, okay, so that's what tells us maybe the user's state shouldn't live inside user list and should be moved to a common parent, in this case to the users. And that's why paginator could throw events to the user's components, to the parent component, and update things in the user list. So this is where I wanted to come from this whole lesson, to come to this part where we do this. So what happens when we click on the user filter? Okay, so my first approach was, okay, if I filter a user by, okay, I want to see the female gender users. Okay, so if I filter, I had like a user list with 5 elements only, and I had males there. So if I click, I only want the females, I want to show only 3 user lists. So again, another sibling has to update the another sibling's state. So this comes for the same place. We need to update the parents. Okay, so here you just understand. Of course, while doing this, and the step 2, step 3, you would be yelling from your computer, yeah, users have to be in the parent component, but we are following the steps for thinking in React and building a project, approaching how to go to the code. But there is another thing that we want to happen on user filtering, because the paginator works as I show you 5 pages if I have 25 total users, even if I show you only 5. But if I click on the filter, maybe I'm retrieving from the database 15 users. So I want to show you only 3 paginator items. From my approach, I also want every time I filter, I want to move to the first page, because it's very difficult to, if you are in the page 4 of an element and you were showing a Carlos user and you just click on the filter, it's very confusing to move the user to the page 2 and click again to the Carlos user. So the usual approach is, okay, you just reset the paginator to the beginning. So that's why also when we click user filtering, we have to use the paginator. So this is not, okay, I'm not building an example where all of them use the same state as the temperature approach, but you are, okay, we are dividing the view in 3 components that they do different things, because one paginates, one shows users, and one filters the users. But the 3 of them, have to be in sync and moving between them. So that's why I like this this problem. Of course, this will be able to be solved in other ways. So at the end, what we have is, okay, now we know that for user list, the users have to be a lift state for a parent. The actual page, because it's something that it's reset by the user filter, as we don't want, we aren't able in React to you could do it with little bad techniques, but from what we know, I better not know those techniques yet. We have to update a parent state, so the other child, the sibling, will be updated. So actual page has to live in the user's state and be passed as a prop to paginator. And of course, the total items count, because every time we filter, you could say, okay, from the docs, I know that the items count could be derived from the users, but take this into account. Users is that the 5 or 3 users you are going to show in the view. It's not the all users you come from the database, the whole user. So like if you're wearing an API, you would be, okay, filter by gender, by age, and tell me, okay, you have 3 items, but you have 12 items here, but maybe you show 3 in the view, but you need to have this total items count, so it's different. Okay. So yeah, and we have in the parent the items per page, because this is where like a prop from the parent as before, because it was like I want to make it configurable from the outside, so it's outside props. So what we've built through here, I'm going to move to the, let me check through the codes. I have to move through the commits. So I think it's here. Okay. So you will see again, users. What has changed in users? We can use this div tool. Okay, so what we've added all these things. We've added the I just remove. So we added the items page total pages. I didn't have it in the previous code, but they were like inline elements. We added the state. We have the actual pages, the total users, so the total users count, total items count, and the users, they are on the parent. I just created a fetch users, because now as we are fetching them from the, now you see this was the users were fetched by from the user list component. Now it's here. So I just wanted to make, okay, fetch users, just calculate the init slice and end slice. So I want to fetch from the 5th element, from the 10th element, etc. And just set the users, slice them from the API, and put the total users. Okay, so this is what we built. As you see, user filter unchanged. User list now receives the user from the parent, and the paginator received items per page and total items now receives the actual page. Okay, because we have understood that now things need to be in the parent. So isn't this awesome? So user filter doesn't change. What happens in the users? What we have changed in the user list. So in the user list, we just have changed these little things. Just remove the all users, and now add it that is going to receive a user prop type. And now, it's just this. We haven't changed anything more. So it's very, I just little forgotten things that I had. And the paginator. As you see, the paginator is changed in that now has, before we had just paginator item here, and now we have the active, because I want to give the states. So if page is equal to the actual page passed, it's active. It has the active state. And now everything is working, but we added actual page to the props. So as you see, we received and we've built a very, let me prepare the last commit for later. So yeah. Let me check. Yeah. So see how we've been creating changes and they aren't very big changes, but we are like moving things and understanding how we are moving from one place to the other. So let's check and go to the next one. So now they tell us, okay, now you have to add inverse data flow. So for inverse data flow is, okay, now we have to make our view work. And this is where things get a little complicated. But, so we have to use the on-page change and the user filter. So just go through the code and show you how things have changed. Because, okay, so so one thing I had to change was, if I come to the paginator, as you see here on change, okay, I didn't go to the correct commits, sorry. If you go to the, because I just solved like 3 errors for the paginator, so yeah, this is now. So the paginator, what we've changed. Okay, so we add the on-page change. We come here, we add the on-page change because we want that when we click on a pagination change to update the user. So okay, we add here, and because the state lives in the parent, this event comes from the parent. So paginator doesn't do anything more. Just okay, on page change, call the parent, on page change or a pass, and just do your thing. So we go to the users and see. It has a lot of changes, but because what we've built is, okay, on page change, that's what we added. So we set the state, we add the new page to the state, and we refetch the fetch user. This is the callback when we go to, okay, once the state is changed, do this. So not before or after. So fetch users, don't think about these big things now. So for this would be working as before. You shouldn't be having more code than before at this part, because you only need to slice it, and because we had calculated everything in the before steps, everything is working with these lines that have been unchanged. So with this, as you see here, would be working, because this view I have lots of changes. And as we see how now the paginator, we call the on-page change. So what's made me change things here more? The user filter. The user filter made me change things. I had, let me check, when I added the on-change things before for adding internal change. I think I didn't show you in the previous code. This is the previous code. I had the state internally, the state for the filters. So sorry I didn't show you in the before commit. For clicking on the males, females, and making change, I just created this state with all the properties and made the on gender change, where I was just updating this state. This is things that we will be mastering during the Redux part. If you don't understand it, you will have the code, so don't worry. So I had like, okay, on gender change, on role change, on age field, on age change, and I was just adding the on change events for every input. What I realized, that's okay, even that we understood that it was a state in the child. What I wanted to do is, okay, now I have a state in this component, but every time I make an on change in this new approach, I have to call the parent, the father, to filter. So I have to pass all the filters and all the. So it was like, okay, if I have an object of that represents the internal state of this filter, and the father needs to update with all this data. So I have to pass this data to the parent. Was okay, I think for this approach I should make this state live in the father because it will be easier. So you will see. So this is where I just change the instead of, as you see, in every part is the same. Instead of updating the internal state, we update the parent state with the props given. So I just and this state is passed now as a prop. So if, we don't need the state because we don't need it to show it here. So what we do is now that's why the code became a little more complex. We had to add the filters, and we had to add this kind of filtering. That's why I have to. They tell me the filter was changed on the names, on the gender, on the age, and you have to filter and fetch the data to the users and filter and things. And was like, if I have it like at the same object, it's easier to have in the state. So that's the part where we could discuss where should live. You can do another approaches, but I think this is how we end having things. And I wanted for you to have like different a different approach, like a real example of things where not everything fits, or we don't understand every part of the step of the path. Like where you in this third step I can do this, but maybe in the fifth step I should change something on the step 3. So it's a very nice guide. The Thinking React doc. I thought that this would help you to understand more how to approach the project, how to approach the lifting state part. I was trying doubting about doing this example or putting little examples of what would you put this state here or here. I don't know. So this is in the final part. So please tell me any questions you have. Of course, any feedback is much appreciated. Let's see if you prefer this way of showing code instead of writing it, or because in this way you have you have the GitHub, and you have the now available once I upload the video to the YouTube. So you can go through the code and you will see that I made mistakes. You will see that I had some fixed two things about the pagination. And so, before, if you ask me questions, this is what we should have built. Let me go to the. So yeah, that would be. So this is what we've built. I want filtering, paginating, everything is working. I want to page through 2 or 3, male to the 1. I want females, page 3, maximum 35 and 38. So this is what we've built. Okay. So if you don't have any questions, I just want to congratulate all of you that you are making huge progresses. You are nailing it. Some of you have are ending the React fundamentals part, understanding or going through the extra information for Ecmax 6, and you are beginning the project or asking things for the project. So if you don't understand things about the webinars, or please let me know at Slack. So thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Sorry for the yesterday problem with the time zone. I just forgot that that's only a change for Europe. So sorry, I will make the changes in the calendar to reflect everything correctly. We will be keeping these webinars and the AMI events until you change them or you tell me you want them other day at the same times, 10 Central European time. So thank you very much, gang. Stay audacious. Bye, guys.